So the number one cause for biodiversity loss is the destruction of habitats. And the main reason that's happening is to create more land for agriculture. If we look at which commodities are actually driving this agricultural expansion, there's about 5 of them which are responsible for 3/4 of this expansion into forests. Things like beef, palm oil and soy, which are then globally traded. So actually understanding this international trade part of the puzzle is really crucial to tackling deforestation and then by extension biodiversity loss and climate change. Trase is a science-based program that maps the international trade of agricultural commodities that drive deforestation. And we do this by bringing together different publicly available data sets and piecing these together to try and understand the supply chains of these commodities. We then link that to deforestation impacts, and the idea is that this is useful, we hope, to businesses, governments, financial institutions, and other actors that are trying to tackle deforestation. So what we've seen, if we look over the last 10 years or so, is that voluntary commitments from the private sector have not been enough to tackle deforestation. And so I think regulation like the EUDR is a really welcome part of the picture to help bring everybody up to speed. But of course this needs to be done in an effective, fair and data-driven way to make sure that this regulation actually works. It's pretty discouraging therefore to see this delay being proposed for the next 12 months or so for the EUDR. And we need to make sure that the substance and the aims and the principles behind the regulation are not at any risk from this delay. What we do need to see is that 12 months is then used to ensure effective implementation, make sure there's adequate support for producers, financial support, and also detailed guidance that's much needed to make sure that implementation can be as effective as possible. So I think the most important thing we need to see from businesses and government policymakers, especially at the moment, is just maintaining that ambition and keeping up this issue to be high on the agenda. We've seen some delays to regulation or perhaps watering down of certain commitments, and we need to make sure that doesn't happen. I think there's a really key role for journalists and consumers to play here in holding them to account and maintaining that scrutiny on these other actors to make sure we keep up the ambition on this really important issue. And I think the final thing to say is that the data landscape on all of these issues has changed hugely in the last few years, and we now have really good publicly available data sets that can help inform and target action on nature, particularly on deforestation, where the data is particularly strong. And at Trase, we provide data to various different audiences, including governments, businesses, and financial institutions, to help them understand where those risks are and how they can mitigate them.